Hey everybody, sort of have a bit of a special episode today because first of all, it's a twofer. So we've got two books for the price of one. And also I'm cheating like a little bit here because I borrowed one of these from my mom, but because it was such an influential book for me when I was still living at home and probably about like 13 years old. Um, it kind of like changed my life. And so we're going to be talking about that. And also, I'm going to add on one book that has to do with the topic, but it's one of my own books. So, as you can kind of see behind me here, I've got my Rocky Horror Picture Show movie poster and my little postcard there as well too, just to kind of get you in the mood. So the book I want to show you guys today is this gorgeous fat coffee table book, and this is the wow, you can see my monitor in that. It is so shiny. There we go. It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show movie book. So this was produced not long after the movie, and it's quite a thick book, and it's really great because it's got all sorts of behind the scenes stuff in it, pages from the script, actor bios, all the cast, everything like that. It's got some nice glossy shots like stills from the movie and things like that. It goes behind the whole sort of audience participation phenomena and looks at that. It's got, audience callback scripts in with sections of dialogue and things like that. And it also goes into like the fandom in behind like the Rocky Horror phenomenon as well too, where people, made their own zines and fan art and clubs and things like that. And it sort of talks about Rocky Horror kind of worldwide as well too. And why this book was so amazing for me was, I was already into like horror. And so like I spotted this like on the bottom shelf of my mom's bookshelf like one day, and I was like, oh, like Rocky Horror, like picture show. Like I'm looking at like this is like some kind of like horror book, and so I pulled it out expecting, like blood and gore and stuff like that. And I was just like, what the hell is this all about? So, like you're flipping through and you've got like crazy pictures of like men in drag, and then you've got like, people wandering around in like their underwear, and then you've got aliens and you see all these like people like having fun and like participating. I am going to show some still shots from this as well because there's so much stuff in here. I kind of wanted to give you guys a sampling of what's available in there. But like your absolute basic, instructions for the time warp, that kind of thing. And I'm paging through this, and I was just like, I don't know how this is making me feel, but I want to know more. Men wearing women's lingerie. I'm like, I need to know more. So, like I kind of brought it up with like my mom, and I'm like, what the hell is this sort of thing? And that was my introduction to Rocky Horror, and it was not long after actually that I think the 15th anniversary of it came out. So, like the movie and I are almost the same age actually. So it was released on VHS for the first time. I think it was for the 15th anniversary. Might have been the 20th, but it was around there somewhere. And so my parents rented the VHS for me and showed me, and I just kind of sat there like the whole movie, like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I was like a lifelong fan since then. I was hooked. And my first tattoo is actually a copy of this logo, the Lips logo, right about here. So anyway, my obsession began. But this book, it's just absolutely fantastic. Um, it goes all the way from like the concept of the film, through to like how they got funding, through to deciding to stick with Tim Curry as Frankenfurter, because it started out as a stage show, as a play, in the UK, for a couple of years before they decided to go ahead and make a movie. And they kept a bunch of the cast members from the floor show, or sorry, from the show, to be in the film. And so, it gives sort of a breakdown of like the entire process. And then, of course, like once it got released, like, it was very slow uptake. Like people didn't know what it was about, or like they didn't know how to react to it. Um, you know, but then they started showing it like late night, like midnight showings at like, theaters and things like that. And like the weird people started to find out about it. And like word got around, and people all of a sudden who like, never sort of had a movie that, they could really kind of get into, where, things like, you know, women dressing in men's clothing, or like open sexuality, or uh, you know, um, things like that were like just out there on the screen, and they were kind of being made fun of. But on the other hand, it was almost like a glorification of being different, and they just made it awesome. Like Frankenfurter is awesome, such a good character, and then they made it a musical on top of that. So you've got an amazing soundtrack, with Frankenfurter, with Meatloaf. Um, Rip Meatloaf. That was too bad. As Eddie, little Nell, who plays Columbia, like was a professional tap dancer. So you've got like dancing in it, singing, sex, violence, aliens, and then a very sort of thinly veiled Van Helsing character in the form of Dr. Scott. And, like people just saw this so many times that I mean, myself, I could probably watch Rocky Horror right now and say every single line along with every character for like the entire film, plus callbacks. So people really got to know this, and like it became their own. They owned Rocky Horror to the point where, they were so familiar with it, people started to act out the movie as the movie was playing. They started to like have callbacks, like dialogue with the characters, and no one had ever done anything like that before. I mean, like you could yell shit at the screen and like, throw your drink at a drive-in if you were pissed off or something. But I mean, it was like having a relationship with like the characters on screen. And it was unique, and it grew into like this huge phenomenon. And both my parents actually were aficionados of the midnight showing of Rocky Horror, and there was these big after parties and things like that. And I've seen photographic evidence, which I will not present here, but they were pretty wild. Yeah, so that was like, Rocky Horror really sort of spoke to my weird side. The burgeoning sort of, coming of age, sexualization. Uh, you know, it also introduced me to like drag in a way as well too, which I've been such a massive fan of since my teen years as well too. Super frequent. I've even actually done drag myself a few times too. But anyways, it just introduced me to like this whole world of possibilities where, I mean, like you could express yourself, and it was cool, and it was fun, and it was okay. Um, yeah. So this book, like seriously, I think in a way is responsible, well, in a lot of ways actually, for making me the person I am today. And I mean, I really want to give it a shout out to my parents and my mom, especially for like being such a cool mom that, she let me kind of grab this and run with it. And she even paid for my Rocky Horror tattoo when I turned 16. So thank you, Mom, for helping me turn into the crazy goth bi girl that I am today. Thanks. So I'm just gonna pop through here like real quick. They go into a bunch of other trivia as well too. So I mean, like here you can see some of like the scripts that they've got through. There's a lot of sort of photos of stills of the film, and then they sort of go into, you know, all of the songs at the back. There's the lyrics for everything, including, you know, some callbacks. Like there's very few in here, but I mean, this was also when it was still quite a new movie. But, you know, we've got some callbacks here when Brad and Janet are getting married, or I should say getting engaged, not married. There's a score for the Time Warp, for instance. And it really goes through like all the press and everything like that. And there's like a really gorgeous movie poster in here from Japan, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I'll throw up there as well too. So that was my introduction to the world of Rocky Horror. And it's such a great read because it really goes into the backdrop of everything. And this was published in not too long after the movie came out. Yeah, so 1979 was the publication of the book. And then, yeah, I thought it was, I can never remember if the movie came out, I think it was 76 was the actual film. So this was a couple of years after the movie. And then for the two for today, we've got, and I found this at, again, like just some random book thing somewhere. We've got the official Rocky Horror Picture Show movie novel. So this basically takes stills from the movie throughout and formats it like a graphic novel, comic book kind of thing. So it's, you know, all color, like all shots from the film. No callbacks though, unfortunately. But it even goes through the songs and stuff like that. So popping through here, I mean, we've got like the whole scene with like the time warp and everything like that all through. And then like, love this. Oh, Rocky. So yeah, quite a cute little book. If you wanted to like, you know, sort of pop through. So it's kind of like the cold notes of Rocky Horror, I kind of feel. But it was a lot of fun, and I just hadn't seen anything like this. And I think this was publication date of 1980. Yeah, so 1980. So, you know, like a couple of more years after the movie there. I kind of wish that it had actually been drawn, you know what I mean? Like a real graphic novel. Like, I think that would have been a hell of a lot of fun as well, too. Actually, probably a little more fun than just taking stills from the movie, because, like, I feel like I was kind of being lazy about it a little bit, but still really cool. And it's also kind of neat to go through if you need to, like, refresh your memory on, like, some lines and stuff like that for callbacks. So yeah, so that's the official movie novel for Rocky Horror Picture Show. So there we go, guys. That was a little bit of a twofer for today for you. So the official picture book and the movie novel, semi-graphic novel kind of thing for Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And any questions, you know, about the movie or about the book or about like, you know, tell me about like your experience with Rocky Horror, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, or if you want to know like, you know, more of my thoughts sort of in depth on the whole kind of thing. Let me know in comments below. And yeah, I'll see you guys again later. Bye.